What in the world is going on with Elijah Schaffer? Well, long story short, Elijah Schaffer had an affair with Sarah Setka. Sarah Setka being a recently rising to prominence e-girl in the conservative side of the right-wing space, and who recently and very publicly had a Catholic marriage that was blessed by the Pope. And where we find ourselves now is swimming in the mess of a Milo Yiannopoulos dossier that has dumped out a bunch of contents that quite literally nobody was ready for. Now, part of why it's so insane was just how chaotic the information was coming across the feeds as it was happening. And this was due to the fact that Elijah Schaffer had posted and then deleted multiple posts in a row. And these deleted posts were pretty alarming. The first of which talks about how he does not know where his wife and kids are, filing them as missing persons, they've gone missing, and that enforcement confirms that someone in their household set him up, they planted drugs, and he also says there'll be a public trial by the FBI. Then we get a second one that says he was a victim of serious targeted felony crimes, that he's not suicidal, and that they've kidnapped his family and stolen his money. Then there, the last line, believe the FBI is trying to destroy my life and kill me. And perfectly describing how most people were feeling in the moment, she says, I have a horrible suspicion that Elijah Schaffer has killed his family with the gun he claims is stolen. Now, keep in mind, while this is going on, I'm only catching this by seeing some of the memes that are making fun of what's happening. So as I'm trying to catch up to what's happening on the timeline, you're seeing these memes just like this.
Come on. No, come please.
Commenting on the current news cycle of the day, which was Nick Fuentes and Jake Shields going back and forth at each other, only for Elijah Schaffer's subplot happening in the background to be very terrifying and eerie. And as funny as that meme is, this overall situation is actually very disheartening and saddening for the people who are actually involved. And we'll get to that here in just a minute. But two more things that Elijah Schaffer had posted and then deleted was a third follow-up post talking about how his stolen car was recovered by U.S. Customs, and he's sitting on the hood there smiling. But this is very eerie given the fact that just the two posts prior, he was talking about how his family was missing and he had no idea where they were. Which, everything all in all, is leading to this kind of Patrick Bateman kind of vibe, which is, what is going on with this guy? Where is his family? And in a now deleted reply from Elijah Schaffer, we have a good bit more to work with here. Because in the post I just referenced, Base Taz says bullshit. You said your family was missing, now it's all about the car. I'm glad you got the car back, but you've been on a coke bender and the missus took the kids. Coke is for homos, bro. Most pointless drug I ever did. To which Elijah responds, STFU, you projecting narcissistic asshole. Sorry you did coke and after life. I don't do drugs, I'm a dad, and I'm very concerned, but I've been advised by attorneys to not make any more statements. And like, immediately, it's like a snowball being pelted me in the face like a Michael Rappaport, but it hits me. I was like, this isn't that serious. This is definitely Elijah's on drugs. And also because there's another deleted video.
No one believes me that my life doesn't make any sense right now, but this is the way back to my hotel room, and it doesn't make any sense. I now have to leave my hotel room because of a flood. This is very weird. But what's going on here, okay? It's very bizarre. So there's some, I guess, some water moving here. Okay, cool. Won't walk in that. My feet are wet. And then we got some flooding, I guess. Okay, it's falling on me. But what even is going on, right? There's a thing, okay? At least I can like take a seat and actually rest. But then I have some what? Some Diet Dr. Pepper?
And it's from my understanding that this weird video came from a hotel in El Salvador being recorded somewhere in the basement, I would imagine like in a conference room. And for what reason, I have no idea. Now, if you were asking me, that comes across as something a bit stronger than marijuana. Now, perhaps this could be his first time smoking, but I think it's very obvious the picture that's being painted here, which is that he was on some kind of drugs and was coming in and out of reality. But to be fair to Elijah, he did respond to Abby Libby, who probably has the most viral post on this. It's a little over 2 million views, and I was looking at it last night. But Elijah Schaffer says that this is defamatory, that he found his stolen car and he couldn't find his wife. He would never harm anyone. I'm not even a violent person. Please delete this as this is defamatory and implies criminal action that was never taken, nor would I ever be involved in. I love them. Which is completely fair, because I think at this point in time, we know that he has not done anything to his family, and this is more so that the wife and kids have walked away, or more so the wife has now taken the kids and walked away because he's got some kind of drug addiction or alcoholism. But then enter in Milo Yiannopoulos. And I didn't think this needed to be said, but I will say it here for those who may be confused about Milo's role in everything. And it's become the belief of many people in the dissident space, and I think that there is some more harder confirmation to this. I wouldn't be the first to say it. Milo Yiannopoulos' entire positioning in the right wing is to build dossiers on people. It is to entrap people. He is kind of like our Jeffrey Epstein. So when you're thinking about why is Milo always involved in all of this drama, understand it's purposeful. He is there to ensure that he is able to influence people, getting them in their worst moments. And this is where Milo enters in on this story, and where Sarah Stock becomes a lot more relevant. So Milo Yiannopoulos comes out swinging, saying that he's in touch with Elijah and told him to get off the internet for a couple weeks and go to rehab. And it's inside these messages we can find a bit more details about what is actually going on. And so you'll see here at the top, one of these top messages is that Milo is saying that he has seen a dossier that someone put together, and that someone, I would imagine, is Milo, but who knows? However, I will add in this third message here from this message from Milo, it leads me to believe there may be even more that we don't know as of right now that is involved with Schaefer. And it's in the sense here in this third message. As far as I can see, drug addiction is the only card you have left to play. If you're asking me if drug addiction is a card to play, it makes me feel like there is something else that is maybe unforgivable or seen as unredeemable, irredeemable. What would that item be? I don't know, and I'm not going to speculate, but just point your attention to some of the stuff I found notable. And then it's here in this fourth message, you can see that this cross-filing in other states for divorce is insultingly childish and stupid, which we will get to here shortly, but allegedly they're now, Elijah's filed for divorce and the wife is filed for divorce. And then Milo continues, where you can see in the second screenshot that Milo provides is a response from Elijah. And then he says, but I got my car back, so that's good, which Milo responds, are you stupid? And it seems that they are talking past each other, if you will. But it's in this response from Milo to Elijah, you get a lot more in one small text message. And it says right here at the bottom, there is a dossier being circulated that reveals all the details about Rift's collapse, which RiftTV, Elijah's company, his drinking and substance abuse, the affair with Sarah Stock, treatment of his wife, sexual habits and perversion, and alleged prostitution. And then he finishes by saying your wife filing for divorce and then you filing back in a different state so you can make out that you dumped her. And there has been a filing that was corroborated that came out of Florida that does show that Elijah did file. And I will say if that is the case and it was simply like an ego move to get out to say like, I broke up with you, you didn't break up with me. I think that kind of is a short story giving you a summary of what's happening here. Very vapid and shallow decisions all across the board. And before I get into the Sarah Stock stuff, like way too deep, what I would like to say, like first and foremost, is it's like, I'm very extremely disheartened just because there is real people involved in this. And that would include people like Elijah's and soon to be ex-wife and the children involved there, but also Sarah Stock's newly wedded husband. And I think they've not even been married for a year now at this point. And I can't even think what it would be like to just have your phone start going off in the middle of the day. And next thing you know, you're the butt end of a joke because the person you just married, the e-girl you just married, is now publicly allegedly being involved in an affair with Elijah Schaffer. And I think we can go a lot further than allegedly because she's literally confessed to it in audio. But Milo goes very hard in the beginning. So he starts with Sarah Stock and he opens up with one of these messages from supposedly Elijah Schaffer to Sarah, which reads, if your husband doesn't know, now is the time. I understand that you won't see it like this for a long time, but as you can see from the above, it is better for everyone that things come out in one burst today instead of metastasizing over weeks, which is just a crazy message to send to somebody. But I also kind of agree. I think that if Sarah would have handled this in private, it probably would have went a lot better than the whole world now finding out the way that they did and the husband probably being blindsided the way that he did. And the reason why I'm putting such emphasis on this and the reason why it's very disheartening to talk about is because while I was covering this, I saw a post from Solar Requiem that said that they've heard through the grapevine that he has now been involuntarily assigned to a psych ward. And why would that be? Well, because when something like this occurs, and given the fact that society doesn't treat men I don't know, like human beings, people forget that these kinds of things do have extreme emotional toll on individuals such as this. And for this man right here, he just watched his future get annihilated and wiped out and be turning into a nonstop humiliation session where everyone reminds him that his wife shagged Elijah Schaffer. Now, if you're asking me, that is not an existence I would want to partake in. So understand this is what this individual is being faced with right now. And for Sarah, the allegations are pretty simple. Milo says that in February, the day that they met, they began having sexual relations at the CPAC conference, and that the affair supposedly ended at the day that she got engaged about 6 months later. Now, the part that I've not seen corroborated anywhere is the last line here, which is, it is alleged by one former acquaintance that Sarah got at least one abortion. And I'm not going to speculate beyond that because I've not seen anything corroborating anything further than that. But I would imagine a lot of people would want to know the answer to that. And let's understand too, let's not forget, we're talking about conservative, supposedly Christian, both Catholic and Orthodox conservative influencers. And one thing I'll make a note of is going to be this final line here in this tweet from Milo, which is that they told each other they loved one another. And that Elijah told Sarah he was thinking of leaving his wife for her. And the reason I highlight that is because that seems to be something that's not found in the recordings of Sarah's talk, at least the ones I've not heard, and there's been so far at least about 10.5 minutes of them, some of which I will play. But what we did get in the recordings was this kind of back and forth, half and half, willing to take accountability for her decisions, but also making sure that the guy asking her really understood that Elijah was pushing alcohol on her. So it's seeming like she wanted to walk the line a bit. So we'll shorten this clip up a little bit. She confesses to the affair, but is specifically hesitant on taking full accountability.
Take any accountability at all because, like, it obviously was my fault too. It happened between us, but even that was like not, like, I don't know. I felt like it was like he got me like very intoxicated. Like I don't even like remember most of it, and I was even like...
She also makes mention that Elijah Schaffer pushed her to take Benadryl for a rash she had on the second day, which leads her to believe is why she felt even more intoxicated than she normally would have been.
And the second night, I was like breaking out in like a rash, and so he's like, oh, like get some Benadryl, it'll help with the rash. And like now I'm thinking back and it's like that's probably why I like blacked out, because he like intentionally gave me Benadryl and like fed me a bunch of shots and stuff, and like obviously that's like stupid on my part to like go along with that, you know, but at the same time it's like he obviously like knew what he was doing.
Sarah also says in this recording that Elijah told her to not worry about the wife because the wife lets Elijah be a man.
What did he say about his family? Like, because obviously he has like a family and kids. What was his excuse with that, though? Like, how would he justify that?
He's like, he was like, oh, my wife doesn't care. She lets me run free or whatever. She doesn't care as long as, because I like take such good care of her, and she just lets me be a man and like do what I want and blah blah blah. Like,
really?
He was like saying that stuff, yeah.
Then what may be like the most insane thing about this recording, and I know this is already an insane story, but it's like halfway through, she's admitting to this affair to who knows who this guy is who's asking the questions. That's a whole other story. But the craziest part is when she's in the middle of confessing to an affair, she starts defending herself that she's not really a slut. She starts literally defending the promiscuity.
Deeply regret that, but also like I'm not a slut. Like, I mean, that's like a horrible thing, but it's not like I really am like sleeping around or have been, so...
Now, to the guy who's asking her questions, there are some tells through the conversations that you'll get that they clearly kind of knew each other or were at least familiar with each other.
Now that's starting to make a little more sense, because I couldn't understand like where there was this switch where he was like condemning anybody in the company that was like liked Nick or watched his clips or was like even just like mildly supportive. He's like, you're either on my side or Nick's side, and they were crashing about you and Mike and anybody else that whatever.
And in the second recording that kind of moves away from Sarah Stockman, more so just Elijah and versus Nick Fuentes, you will understand that the person who's recording the video clearly seems to like Nick and seems to be much more in Nick's camp than in Elijah Schaffer's camp, which then also begs the question, who is the person recording all of this? And also, secondly to that, how does Sarah Stock not pick up on the fact that this guy's been fishing for a bunch of information? Or maybe she didn't really care that she was confessing to it. I don't know. And this part doesn't make sense to me.
And then they were trying to say like, you're a groyper too, you're like, to me. And I was like, no, I mean, he's just right about stuff. I don't even watch his stuff, but like whenever I see his stuff, like he is right and he's better than you. Like that's just like a fact. But it was like, you're either on my side or his side. And now it makes more sense. Like if you had said that to him, I can understand why he would have got even more jealous.
But the first audio recording essentially finishes with her saying that she will not tell her husband. And then when it's pushed a little bit, she seemingly brings up being intoxicated as like a defense or excuse to like not tell her husband. Like, this is why I don't need to tell my husband, was because I was drunk. Like, what?
I guess I was going to ask, like, would you tell your husband? I guess this is before your husband, right?
Yeah, no, we weren't engaged.
Oh, okay.
But no, I'm not telling anyone.
Yeah. Okay.
And like I was like I said, like very intoxicated.
Well,
So
he said like it was a couple times like you were traveling around and like maybe in DC and New York and stuff like that. I'm not trying to.
no.
So it's already bad enough that this e-girl is parading around as if she's like a very conservative woman and she's saving herself for, you know, her future husband. But that it actually literally played out that way. She had promised to her husband that she was a virgin, at least that's what the husband believed he was marrying into, and her not wanting to tell her husband is icing on the cake. So not only do we have a sexual affair and scandal occurring between two conservative influencers, one of which supposedly being a conservative e-girl who is supposedly a virgin saving herself for marriage, now the husband is finding out the entire thing was a complete sham. And also supposedly Milo says that Elijah Schaffer kissed her husband on the forehead like a priest. And some other pieces of information relevant to Sarah Stock, supposedly that Schaefer had constantly questioned Stock's faith at the same time as he was going on this very strong Orthodox Christian push for himself. And moving away from Sarah Stock, now we have a bit more of these kind of gay allegations, which is a smaller chapter here in this saga. Milo makes note of the fact that for the longest time, people can't really pin it on Elijah. Is he gay? Is he not? It's hard to tell. But Milo does say that he had a twink phase before he got married, and that it seems to coincide with Schaefer's time as a youth pastor. But then Milo drops the bomb that Benny Johnson and Elijah Schaffer went to church together and they grew up around each other. And supposedly that they had sleepovers. If you know anything about Benny Johnson, well... But funnily enough, the gay stuff is mostly an aside here. The second largest recording that got dropped in this whole thing, because there seems to be, I think, 3 recordings have been released, and then the one video from Elijah Schaffer. Quote, if Nick knew how much shit Elijah talked about him.
If Nick knew like how much shit Elijah's talked about him, like Elijah will go around like telling people Nick's gay.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's like said that before in like a room. Be like, yeah, I mean, like, I think it's definitely true that he is, you know, gay or whatever, but he has his own things. Just like he's like totally said that before.
The second piece seems to go in and take attacks at the fact that Nick Fuentes and Elijah Schaffer have long been friends on the conservative, at least publicly in the conservative space, more so the dissident right. And Sarah Stock makes multiple comments about how Elijah Schaffer would constantly and consistently trash Nick in private.
Elijah will say things like, well, you know, Nick is like, he's better at doing a show than me, but I'm the one who's like way better at running a business. Like, he doesn't know how to run a business.
Bruh.
Which largely just seemed to be calling Nick gay behind the scenes. And this is where you can find a bit more about who is actually asking Sarah the questions.
Those things make me, I don't want to believe Nick's gay, like, you know what I mean? Like, you know how I feel, but those things, like those clues that Elijah's leaving and always these comments, and then the fact that like Nick doesn't just crush him when he like counter signals or whatever, it's like, I just feel like, does he know something? Like, what does Elijah have that he's allowed to exist this long? Because, and maybe you're right, nobody's just paying attention.
And the random guy recording also says additionally here.
I remember confronting him one time and be like, dude, aren't you friends with this guy? Like, why do you keep this up? You know, like every show was like a dig, like, yeah, but they're all like incels and, you know, none of them are white and they're not Chads like me. It was like every time. And I was like, why do you care so much?
But even Sarah Stock can recognize that Nick has more aura than Elijah Schaffer.
I think I like said something like that. Like, I'm not saying we don't have like a part to play or anything, but like, don't pretend like you have more influence than him.
Yeah.
And then, because that's what he was trying to claim. is that like he has no real influence or something. Like he clearly has like way more influence. He has like all these loyal followers, and like all of them are infiltrating. Like I know them.
But again, this is made extremely brutal given the fact that Sarah Stock had been a very public figure in the last like year or so, maybe 2 years, and it was public for her being a very trad girl, this very prominent e-girl boss on the right wing, only to fall in a manner that is anything but. Now, what pairs with the video that I showed you earlier is this third leaked recording that Milo Yiannopoulos does provide, and it's in this recording that Elijah Schaffer admits to blacking out.
And I'll just say, I'm gonna admit, I'll just say this, I can't make you admit anything, say anything, but I will admit that I am playing a role in this, and that I am that it is immature, and that it should be dealt with differently. And I will also admit, outside of work, that yeah, my personal life, I'm having a hard time, and I'm trying to like figure it out. But obviously, I am stressed, and I'm not dealing with it the way I should be, and I'm not. And it's not always that I'm up till 12. Like oftentimes, it's the same thing. If I don't drink, then I can't sleep. I can't sleep more than an hour. I'm tossing. And I fall asleep at 6, and it's like it may look like I was drinking the same thing or not. Do I drink sometimes? Yeah, and too much? Absolutely. I consider myself more of like having a binge problem. Or even if it is only a couple times in a week, it's like I'll black out or whatever. And so that,
which I guess points for self-awareness. But it is a very brutal thing to hear a man say that he cannot sleep unless he blacks himself out, which is just a crazy thing to hear. So Sarah Stock being the largest element of the so far scandal, with the divorce and the drug addiction following just behind in terms of prominence, and unfortunately a lot of people involved here that I'm hoping the best for. The points on divorce is that Milo writes here that Schaefer's wife had filed for divorce in Texas in January, and that Schaefer filed in Florida so that he could pretend he had instigated the divorce, which I think is at this point in time quite literally worrying about the wrong things. And since Milo has dropped this dossier, there has been a lot of people reporting in saying that they have also had similar stories with Elijah. Now, you guys know me. I am not a believer in the Me Too movement. I do not believe all women. I don't think anyone should be believed the moment words come out of their mouth, actually. I think it should be the opposite. I think that big claims require big evidence. And so I think with each of these stories, there needs to be a grain of salt taken and applied to them. I think that there are opportunists who will convert their stories or maybe pervert their stories, blow them up, exaggerate, make them something that they were not to kind of get a point in. And I want the point to stand very specifically that the biggest losers here are the people who are on the outset, not the influencers. Now, granted, the influencers may lose a lot of money, they may lose all the prominence, but that's all due to their own actions. The husband didn't deserve what happened to him, although you could make an argument it's not smart to marry an e-girl, and I hope all of you will take that to heart. Please listen to me when I tell you now. Never e-girls, that is the rule, not even once. And for Elijah's wife, that's a completely different story, and it's also very unfortunate to have the children involved too. So I guess I would just say I am praying for them, and I do hope the best for them. And I really, really hope, especially for Sarah Stock's husband, that he has a strong support system around him, because I do really hope we don't get any unfortunate news around him, or he does something rash because he wants to lash out from the pain he's experiencing. Same thing with the wife, the ex-wife from Elijah as well too. All of it. It's a terrible story all the way around. But let this be an example for, first and foremost, that the conservative influencer scene is an absolute hot mess. It's almost impossible to trust any of these people. They nearly all have agendas. They're all roped in with all these weird people. It's hard to trust. If anything, it's not even low trust, it's zero trust. It's like you're just waiting to be stabbed in the back. You know it's coming. But specifically on the point of the e-girls with Sarah Stock, there's no such thing as a conservative e-girl influencer. It's just simply a liberal woman without the septum ring. It is a mirage. And if there was anything positive to make out of what's left of this situation, it would be let this serve as the forever reminder and the example and the legacy that we will no longer entertain these kind of e-girls in the space. Never e-girls, not even once. What more example do you need? What more evidence do you need? I mean, Ashley St. Clair, Lauren Sutherland, Sarah Stock. We could just go down the line. I mean, how many more do you want? How many more times do you want to believe? Do you want to just hope that this e-girl, this one's the one, surely? No. This is a problem that we need to tackle, and it's not being tackled very effectively or very well. And unfortunately, when there's an army of simps waiting at the comments, the moment you want to say or push back, it leads to people not even wanting to bother with it. It's a huge problem, and conservatives need to get ahead of it. How are we going to get ahead of it? I don't know. But this whole being absolutely subverted by covert feminism constantly at nearly every step, it's got to go, because we're not making progress without getting rid of it. So Repeal the 19th, whatever, all the whinging, I don't care anymore. Conservative influencers need to be excised from the space. It's not a thing. It's not real. It's ironic. It's oxymoronic. There's no such thing. You can't be. How can a woman be conservative but constantly be giving her opinion? That doesn't make any sense. Anyways, that's it for me. I just wanted to cover this pretty shortly. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I wanted to give you all the details of what's been released so far. So that is where I will leave it. Let me know your thoughts if I missed anything, especially for this one. And like always, I'll see you guys in the comments. Peace.
Smash that like button.